Okay. Okay. I I don't know how to talk. Oh, at all apparently. I don't know how to talk about the Whittaker era of Doctor Who because it is not a simple opinion. I guess the quickest way to describe my feelings on the Whittaker era of Doctor Who is I loved it and I hated it, which is a step up from the Capaldi era, which I just genuinely kind of didn't like apart from the occasional episode, which I feel like on a rewatch I would be more favourable towards, but that's a conversation for another day. I think Chibnall is good at writing characters, but I do not think Chibnall is good at writing plot or sci-fi in general, and that's where we're left. Like many of the episodes of Jodie Whittaker's Doctor Who, I look back on it and I just kind of see a mess of plot holes, missed opportunities, dropped plot points, and just a general mire of like failure. Is failure too strong a word? But then it's also interspersed with some really nice character moments, some genuinely lovely scenes, and the occasional episode which holds together throughout the entirety here and there throughout the seasons. I don't really want to make this video entirely me talking about Jodie Whittaker's era, but I'll say I didn't hate the Timeless Child stuff with the retconning. I think it's good to try and keep things fresh, and after a set amount of time of just like Doctor 10, Doctor 11, Doctor 12, Doctor 13, you know, like it's nice to go back and be like, actually none of that's true, and explore the past. However, I do wonder how Russell T Davies feels about picking up Doctor Who post Timeless Child plotline. I forgot what it was even called then, because it wasn't solved, it wasn't much like Stephen Moffat's question of the Doctor's real name, it was never actually addressed. And also, Gallifrey's dead again, lol. But that's not this episode. This episode was Jodie's final episode, her farewell episode. And how did I feel about this episode by itself? I didn't love the whole Master regenerating into the Doctor thing. I feel like it took a lot of fan theories, and it was like, okay, we can't do that. We can't do the Master was secretly a previous regeneration cycle of a Doctor's or a future regeneration cycle of a Doctor's, because that is a fan theory that's been hovering around, and I don't necessarily think it's got much basis to go on, but I can kind of see the impetus for it. But this just kind of felt like, well, we can't do that, but we can introduce some sci-fi mumbo-jumbo techno wizardry and have the Master basically force himself into the Doctor's body. Well, that's basically what that was. They called it regeneration, but it wasn't really. It was more like, you know, in Pokemon Red and Blue, I don't know if it's in the originals, but it was in Fire Red and Leaf Green. You have that scene where you meet Bill and he's accidentally transferred his consciousness into a Rattata or something. It was that. That's what that was. And they could have gone places with it. And they tried to, but I don't think they had enough time to. This is my constant gripe with Doctor Who. It never gives itself enough time to explore its own plots. But I feel like they could have done some fun stuff with the Master being like, yes, finally I'm you, and then realizing that, oh wait, hang on, I can't be you even when I am you. Also, modern regeneration episodes, I feel like they're like, a regeneration used to be like the Doctor dies at the end of the episode and gets a regeneration. Now, with modern regeneration episodes, it's always like a big song and dance of like, we're going to have a whole storyline about regeneration. And in this one, for instance, Jodie like regenerates into the Master, but then she manages to degenerate, but then in a last ditch effort the Master kills her, and it just feels unnecessary. It feels like unnecessary suspense baiting. I was going to refer back to Peter Capaldi's regeneration episode, but that has actually left my mind almost entirely at this point. I think I liked it. I think it was well received. But yeah, ever since David Tennant, I want to say. And that's not to say I don't like the whole milking the regeneration thing. I loved it with Matt Smith. It was very effective. But it feels like they've gotten away from like, the story doesn't have to be based around a regeneration. The regeneration has to occur at the end of a story, and you can make the story poignant and feel like a finale for the Doctor's character without making it about the fact that the Doctor is going to die. I would have loved when the Master told the Doctor, and this is another thing that never came up again. How does the Master know? I guess because he had the Cyberman hive mind or whatever. He ingested it. That was skimmed over. But the Master says to the Doctor, "This is the day you die. This is the day your very existence comes to an end." And the Doctor looks scared. If I was the Doctor, I would have been like, "Oh yeah, I've had a few of those." But Now, while I didn't like the plot of the episode leading up to Jodie's regeneration, really. Oh, and Ace and Tegan, that didn't really land on me because I've not watched that era of Doctor Who yet, I'm afraid. It felt very fan servicey. I don't know how it was responded to by the people who like Doctor Who during that era. I feel like the Venn diagram of Doctor Who fans from that era and Doctor Who fans who enjoy the Jodie Whittaker era is probably very slim, so I don't hold out hope that it really did anything for them. But anyway, while I didn't particularly love the events leading up to the regeneration of Jodie's Doctor, I did actually really like, when all was said and done, I really did like how her regeneration was handled. We didn't see Ryan. It's a shame, I don't know if something happened with the actor there, but it's a shame we didn't get to see Ryan. But it was touching. There was a lump in my throat. Congratulations, you put that lump there, Chris Chibnall. That's one thing you did accomplish. And I think it's just because I like Jodie Whittaker so much. Like, as I've said before, I love and hate her era. And part of the reason I love her era is because she was the Doctor, and she was a really good Doctor. She's up there. Not up there, but she's up there for sure with some of my favourites. She beats out Peter Capaldi and probably Christopher Eccleston too. I promise I'll go back and watch Peter Capaldi sometime. If I had to rate my New Who Doctors at this point, I would go number 5 Peter Capaldi, number 4 Christopher Eccleston, number 3 Jodie Whittaker, number 2 David Tennant, number 1 Matt Smith, and those top 2 positions are like a hair's breadth from each other. So yeah, we should probably talk about the regeneration itself. It was really lovely. Like, normally the Doctor's regeneration is explosive, like in the TARDIS, and it's like, oh no, I don't want to go. And there was a certain I don't want to go element to it, and that might come up again with the David Tennant reappearing part, which we'll get to. When she realizes she's dying, she exclaims that she wishes she had more time, but it's only like 10 or so seconds before she regains composure. She doesn't quite have the vanity issues that David Tennant's Doctor had. I wonder, by the way, if Chris Chibnall is railing against the fact that he didn't have more time, because that doesn't feel like it comes from Jodie. But then maybe it does. I don't know these people. Maybe it is just completely fictional because it fits Jodie's Doctor's character, and we don't need to bring real-life elements into it. But anyway, I thought it was done with grace. The whole AA scene of Doctor Who Companions Anonymous, I think that's probably going to get memed a bit, but I thought having that interspersed with the Doctor's regeneration moments was really charming, quite beautiful. And Ian was there. Ian Chesterton was there. Fucking old man Ian. I don't know if it's the same actor. I don't know if the actor's still around. I didn't really recognise him, but that could just be age. But I was delighted to see that one of the first companions the Doctor ever has. Maybe this is just because I recently watched a whole bunch of First Doctor episodes. I've got thoughts on him on the channel if you're not aware. But I was surprised and delighted to see him. There were a few others there as well. Actually, there were lots of cameos from Old Who in this episode. We saw some of the older Doctors during the whole Master regeneration thing. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention before moving on. Sacha Dhawan as the Master, absolute fucking peak moment in this era of Doctor Who. I really hope we see more of him. Obviously he died, but you know the Master and dying. Although I think I did prefer his performance in earlier episodes. I don't know, something was off in this episode. Maybe that's just me. I know other people enjoyed him in this episode from what I've seen. Sorry, I'm jumping around all over the place as I remember things. But yeah, the AA meeting, as they were talking about the Doctor and the adventures they had with her, and it was like interspersed with the Doctor just taking herself to like a nice view, a nice sunrise she could watch as she died. God, that's so sad when you put it that way, but as she regenerated. I love that she told the TARDIS to take care of whoever comes next. She was like the most wholesome Doctor, and this is like the most wholesome regeneration we've had so far. And then of course, When we're all expecting Ncuti Gatwa, David Tennant appears. What? Who could have seen that coming? I certainly didn't predict anything like that on this channel. And yeah, I mean, I was a bit too wrapped up in the moment of Jodie leaving to really feel the full force of holy shit, it's David Tennant. Also, I've just watched Good Omens and I have been following David Tennant's career a little bit as well, so it's not like I'm starved for seeing him. And we did have the Day of the Doctor as well. It's not quite as momentous of like a holy shit, Ten's back moment as maybe it could have been based on my personal context and maybe the fact that they've already brought him back once before. But this is exciting, and I think it's cool that they teased in the Next Time trailer that it seems like he's going through a bit of an identity crisis. He says, I don't know who I am anymore. And I mentioned in my prediction video, if you want to find it, just search baseless speculation on my channel, it should come up. I said that in a potential Jodie Whittaker into David Tennant regeneration storyline, they could explore themes of, I think I said they could explore identity crisis themes. I don't know if I said it quite like that, but I definitely said they could also use it to wrap up some of the looming threads from Ten's character of he didn't want to go, he had these issues. It would be nice if this was a method of re-exploring that, but it's also a nice way of being like, look, this show has a bit of an identity crisis, so it'd be nice to kind of address that in the show, if you know what I mean. I'm sure the real reason David Tennant is back is because BBC One is celebrating its centennial anniversary, and it's looking back over all of its most famous programs, and it's going, New Who David Tennant era is one of the most famous eras of BBC. Bring him back. Like, I don't know if Russell T Davies wanted David Tennant back. I feel like BBC might have wanted David Tennant back. But we also saw a glimpse of Ncuti Gatwa saying what the hell is going on. So we can assume that we are also going to be getting him. But interestingly, they didn't mention if we're just getting David Tennant for an episode, like a single special, or if it's going to be like part of the whole season. I'm really excited to see what Russell T Davies does with his second era in Doctor Who. Hopefully they don't keep Ncuti Gatwa away from us for too long. I'm excited to see what that man does with the role. But not to milk a TARDIS dry, that is going to just about do it. I didn't go over excruciating detail the actual main events of this episode with the Daleks and the Cybermen and the Master and everything, but as I already mentioned in the beginning, that entire aspect of it, I'm just kind of watching like, oh, is that what we're doing? Okay. Oh, you cloned that cyber guy from earlier. I guess they killed him off before they realized they needed a character facing Cyberman for this episode. Okay, great. Oh, look. Oh, he couldn't get the Daleks and the Cybermen working together, could he? That's never happened before. Oh, a Dalek that wants to treat with me? That's never happened before. Sorry, who's Rusty? Oh, Unit. We're in Unit. Okay, that's cool. Wait, didn't they dissolve Unit? Why is Unit a thing again? Okay, just skipping past it. No big deal. Oh, Ace and Tegan just kind of left at the end of the episode without having a little talk with the Doctor. They didn't really get any time with the Doctor, really. I mean, they got time with their doctors, which was... you know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of discussion it would be. So, I guess let me know what you thought about this episode in the comments. Like the video if you liked it. This is my divided reaction. I couldn't exactly put it out in tweets. Partly because it's spoilers and some people don't get to watch it live. But also... because it's just a mess. Much like the plot, it's a mess of thoughts. But that's gonna do it. I'm putting a bow on it. Jodie Whittaker era. One day, when I go back and continue watching classic Doctor Who, and I get all the way through it, and I get all the way back up to modern Doctor Who, we will revisit the Jodie Whittaker era, and we will have a good fleshing out of every little section, every episode, the good parts, the bad parts, the nonsensical parts, and yeah, that's gonna be it. Okay, I've finished this video like 3 times now, so this is gonna be it. It's regenerating into a new video. Goodbye. Oh my god, I forgot she froze the volcanoes. She froze the volcanoes. That was so stupid.